Hello, it's June 2022, and before I get into this video, I just want to revisit the topic of targeted individuals that I mentioned in the previous video. And there's something that kind of links to that, maybe, I don't know. And about 2-3 weeks ago, I was talking to someone, just casually, we were talking about different topics, and I happened to mention this. And since the video, I've been kind of thinking, well, is this something that ties in? I don't know. But to give an example, throughout my life, and this is not something that happens all the time, it's rare, but it does happen, and I've noticed this. I could be walking along on a street, in a park, a shopping mall, anywhere, and some random person that I've never met, never seen before in my whole life, and this is before even the internet, will say, for example, walk past and insult me. And for no reason. I'm just minding my own business. I never really gave it much thought other than thinking to myself, okay, that's a crazy person, and continue on my way. But I've always wondered, like, where did that come from? Like, why? Never dwelled on it. I'm just wondering if people who call themselves targeted individuals have noticed that as well and think that it's specifically to them. It could be a reflection of just society overall, disrespect, for example. Who knows, maybe even something woo-woo, right? So I just thought I'd mention this for whatever it's worth. And I know that video, when I do talk about targeted individuals, may have triggered some, and they may have misunderstood my whole point. So, and if you've ever experienced something random, like someone insulting you or whatever on the street or wherever you are, leave your comment in the comment section below, and and I wouldn't dwell on it if it does happen. So what I really want to talk about here is, I've talked about, for example, how governing bodies, government, were only ever to establish and maintain infrastructures. And that's the whole point of government. Now, corporations, that's going to segue for a moment, was the link for the common person, the civilian, the population, to be able to contract with the government for a very short period of time to get a job done. For example, creating some sort of infrastructure. And then from that, we see how corporations have the status of a living human being, and everything kind of just went completely sideways after that, but I digress. So, governing bodies to establish and maintain infrastructures, they were never meant to micromanage people. Now here's the catcher that a lot of people, and I'm sure even truthers, have missed. The rights and freedoms given to the people by governing bodies to micromanage them. Now, rights and freedoms were to protect the people from the government. But again, like we see with corporations, it had expanded into micromanaging the people. Rights and freedoms were never to protect people from the people. Again, only from the government. And this micromanaging can best be observed with, for example, rights and freedoms. Rights and freedoms given by governing bodies. Now, what makes this whole campaign of micromanaging so successful is the people who are being micromanaged, controlled, will fight and defend and cry out for rights and freedoms, the very rights and freedoms that were given to them by the people who are imposing on them. It's very fascinating. Now, I've also talked a lot about how liberalism has infected even the most conservative types of people, and they don't even realize it. The success with social justice movements comes from being able to wordcraft things that capture people's emotions, and I've talked about this extensively. I've also said, never base a decision on emotions, and that's something, when you get into the corporate world, you learn very quickly is you don't make decisions or conclusions on emotions. Social justice movements play on people's emotions. And we also see this, the selling of an agenda, for example, using emotions, even with truther types. This is no diss to anyone, again. But I'm simply trying to highlight how the whole idea of manipulating people's emotions to lead them into a direction, for example, controlled opposition, is a very real thing. And where we really see a big problem with all this is how liberal ideologies have played a big role in this, and again, snowballed into something that is completely out of control now. And I've said many times how liberalism has infected even the most conservative type of people, and they may not even realize it. And where we can see this, a real good example is, for example, in the justice system, or so-called justice system. And all you have to do is look, for example, to family courts. Now, family courts have been swayed so much in one way that it's not even pretending to be about justice. Now, the problem with this is, for example, with family courts, is we have the social justice movement of feminism that has pretty much taken over the whole system, where we have an injustice towards men, fathers, and people, men, are getting screwed over. Now, it's not just the men that are being impacted, but it's the children, if there's children, and there usually is, that are also being impacted. And that whole system is based on liberalism, because people who are feminists want to make a change. They want to, make things right. Now, let's just, for the sake of argument, pretend that 30, 40 years ago, there was some sort of injustice, some sort of whatever. To think that nothing has changed for the better over all these decades doesn't even make sense. But there's this constant push that, yes, there's this injustice, and feminism is the answer, and they keep pushing. There's not even a line drawn anymore, or a bar. It's just gone. We have an imbalance of injustice. And I want to say again, these injustices, for example, in family courts or the courts overall, are based on social justice movements, liberal ideologies. And it's these ideologies that capture people's emotions. And they do so by clever word crafting. Capture their attention, capture people's attention, and you have them. And this is not only, for example, as a descriptive scene with mainstream, but we also see this, for example, with alternative media types. Their emotions are being captured, and their imaginations are running away, and things are getting blown out of proportion on both sides, on all sides. And that is known as controlled opposition. The alternative media side, for example. Controlling people's emotions is key. And we live in a world today where if you say or do the wrong thing, you're canceled. Canceled culture. We've heard this term many times. And it's unfortunate. Now, I know there's things that I've said in my videos, my posts, or even my comments that some people don't like. And despite there being many more things that they do like, perhaps even agree with, they will unsubscribe, block, unfriend because of one thing, rather than looking at the bigger picture, or even maybe, perhaps, reevaluating their position on what, for example, triggered them. In today's world, if you don't capture someone's emotions, say with proper word crafting, it almost sounds like political correctness, then they'll just walk on past, ignored. But where we see this as a really big problem is the cancel culture, people being erased because someone might say something or even do something that is not liked by an individual, a group, or even society as a whole. If you don't capture someone's attention with your emotions, then they ignore you. If you go against that, you're erased. And this is a really big problem that we see in today's world among any side of the fence. Anyway, I just wanted to give you some things to think about. Take what you will. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.
Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people say, when is it going to get easier? When you die.